and welcome to Fossil Arcade. This is the Astro City Mini, a Japan-exclusive miniature arcade cabinet with a built-in HD screen, miniature but real arcade controls, and 37 Sega arcade classics dating from 1984 to 1994. This cost me £125 to import from Amazon Japan, and I've been really impressed with it. But I'm assuming that anybody watching this review is doing so because they are on the fence about whether or not to buy it. So I'm going to keep this very concise and only cover the peak pros and peak cons. The price is very high, and what you think of the library of games is going to be subjective for each individual person. I hadn't played many of them, and I didn't own many of them, so buying this added a lot of value to my gameplay experience. But I think the biggest detractor is that if you want to play multiplayer, you have to spend extra money on proprietary controllers. I bought 2 additional D-pad controllers, which raised the cost of this unit to £185, and these controllers cannot be used on current generation consoles or next generation consoles, and currently it is not compatible with RetroArch or Steam. You even can't use this on a Mega Drive Mini or Genesis Mini. It is only for the Astro City. There's also a full-size arcade stick controller, but that costs almost as much as the Astro City itself. I already have a full-size arcade stick, the Rad 5, which I use with my Nintendo Switch and PC, and it's not compatible with the Astro City. I've tried it. As far as I'm aware, the only controller you can use with the Astro City, which isn't Astro City branded, is the Japanese Mega Drive Mini 6-button Mega Drive control pad. But if you have a 3-button European or American Mega Drive Mini controller, it won't work. And I'm sure that these controllers will open up to other systems when people start to mod the Mega Drive Mini a bit more. I'm sure that the Astro City D-pad controllers will come into fruition there, and maybe vice versa with modding on the Astro City. I will say it's a very comfortable controller. The D-pad is really nice, and so are the buttons, but that doesn't mean you should jump in and spend all of that cash just on faith. The built-in controls are actually really comfortable, and if you're looking to get this and only this with no accessories, I don't think you'll have many complaints. This is a micro switch square gate arcade stick, and all of the buttons are micro switch as well. Being able to play Wonder Boy and Monster Land on this tiny screen with the tiny controls is a real novelty, and sure, they're small and that might mean you can only play for brief periods of time depending on how large your hands are, but from my experience it's been very comfortable to play, and I've been actually really surprised by the quality of the controls and how quickly you feel like you're playing with a full-size arcade unit once you get into a game. It's also worth knowing that plugging in 2 D-pad controllers to this does not make it a 3-player system, even though you still have access to the stick. There are games on here which would have been available in 3 or 4-player modes in arcades, but they've been reduced down to 2-player only on the Astro City Mini, which is a shame considering they've got Revenge of Death Adder on here, which is the first time it's ever been released at home, and you can't play it 4-player, which you could have done in the arcade. And the emulation is pretty good. There are actually a few frame drops in the replays of Virtua Fighter, but other than that, I haven't seen any frame drops in the main head-to-head battles, or any other games at all for that matter. So besides that anomaly in the replays, I think the emulation is quite high quality. Other than the games, you don't get many extras in the unit. The UI is very bare bones, and although I like the music and it's very responsive and fast, it would have been nice to have a few extra quality of life options or just a couple of secrets hidden away. You can change brightness and sound, although only through the menu, not through any physical buttons, and there's a few wallpapers and scan lines, although I haven't been impressed with the scan lines personally. But you can't reorder the games on the menu, you can't list them alphabetically or by franchise, they are just stuck in the chronological list which the console defaults to. While some of the games do offer a rapid fire option for games where you're firing a lot, you can't actually remap any of the arcade buttons to suit your own control style, which I think is a bit of a detraction. One nice extra, although it is included in the 37 games, is Dotori-kun, which is a game that not many people will have played before. Basically, when selling arcade units in Japan, it was a legal requirement that they include game software, so Sega bundled in Dotori-kun with every Astro City that they sold, and arcade establishments would have removed that and just replaced it with whatever game was current at the time. So it's really nice that it's been included here as a little piece of arcade history, a little curiosity. It's basically like a very simple Pac-Man clone. So overall, is the Astro City Mini worth it? I think if you're going to go in on this, you need to accept that at least one extra controller is pretty much mandatory, because a lot of the functionality of this comes from the fun of playing multiplayer. You've basically got to drop £185 to get the maximum functionality of this thing, and even then you're not using full arcade sticks to play these arcade games, nor can you plug in an arcade stick of your own. They want you to use that Astro City arcade stick. But I still think this is the best mini console there's been. The build quality is fantastic, the games are fantastic, many of them have never been released at home before, which makes it even more valuable if you're into these kinds of arcade games. And because of those things, it's easy to see where your money is being spent. As far as getting nitty-gritty about each individual game, once we're able to, we're going to do a whole bunch of gameplay videos with the Astro City Mini on Fossil Arcade, so if you're interested in seeing it more, you'll know where to find it. But I hope this video has been helpful, and I'll see you around.